So tonight we're going to be, and as such, tonight, last week we went over character creation, not character creation, but character mechanics, how the different characters are, and the like. And here we're actually going to go over farming and kind of how you go about getting that and stuff like that. And I created this character here not only to test the animations for the Furin, which I think I made a pretty cool looking one, but at the same time not a big fan of the animations for the classes that I play. Now, to start out, one of the first things you're going to get in the beginning of the game are called farms. So you'll have scarecrows. Basically, they are a basic land placement that you can get and you can put down and go from there. And how you get them on the eastern side, I believe there is a mirror for the west, is you'll have a Blue Salt Brotherhood area, which you can see here, all sorts of blue salt brotherhoods, and I'm queued up perfectly for the quest. So here is just telling you to retrieve some water from a nearby well. So we have to go find the well. Usually I have that already, but in this case I don't. Ah, here we go. Providing it right for you right off the bat. Little bit of a bug here in the beta. UI does not remember your scale. And again, if you guys have any specific questions, feel free to ask and I will get to them. But as you can see, we're kind of going through here basic quests. Now it's telling me to water the corn, just kind of giving you basically kind of like your farming tutorial here. Just some real basics. Giving you some potatoes. And then it's telling you to buy some potato seeds. So you can see this is a public farm. Now, on that note, let's see if we can't bring that one on up. Public farms. So you can see this is the farmstead overview. The default key for this is P. It is actually a public. As you can also saw, I brought it up under vocations, public farms. You can see that I can have a maximum of 1 of 10 items on a public farm. Usually the farms are pretty limited, so for example you can see chickens and corn and the like. There are also public nurseries where you can grow trees, public ranches where you can grow items, and public stables, which are primarily for things like growing mounts and the like. So that's what this is. So the next quest is to go talk to the Mirage Island guy over here, auctioneer. So this kind of introducing you to the auction house. Now what this is kind of a housing hub. It has quite a bit of farming vendors. You see these quite spread around the world pretty commonly. They have a warehouse, a mailbox. They'll also have the crafting merchant, as well as basic refining stations, so like a leather refining, weaving loom, smelter for iron ingots, workbench for stone, carpentry for making furniture, sawmill for lumber, etc. You'll also see the carpentry merchant, and she typically sells the recipe books that you need to make furniture, which is one way to go about it, but we'll cover furniture in a while. And then you also have the seed merchant here, sells seeds, sapling merchant who sells saplings, and of course the Mirage Island auctioneer, which is just like every other auction house you've ever seen. You can come in here and search for stuff. And as you can hear, they have not fully converted all the localization yet. So we're coming over here, and this will cover kind of getting one of the main currencies of the game, which is the Gilda Star, which is a gold coin. And then you can see here I get a new quest to go report to a merchant recruiter. I report to him, and leveled up. So you do get some XP. Now that gave me a scarecrow garden design. The scarecrow garden design, you can see, in order to construct, I'm going to need 10 lumber, which is not accurate. It's actually only 1 lumber. And you can also tell some other details. For example, a return via the mail if removed. Return will be delayed 22 hours if its removal is due to unpaid taxes. Cannot be sold once built. So to kind of give you how the building system works, as you can see, quite a few people have their scarecrows already placed. You would actually come to these little wooden pegs, which you can see are here, and try to find an area in which to place the scarecrow. Now, given that this is one of the starter areas of the game, it's going to be pretty natural that this space is going to get taken up very quickly by players. You can see it's mostly small scarecrows throughout the entire thing. There's really nobody has placed anything too large here. It just continues to go on and on and on. You can tell a little bit of a bug here. It's not showing some of these things. So that's kind of the deal with the scarecrows and how those work. Now, once you get these scarecrows, they allow you to place crops protected. And to give you a little bit of a visual, when you want to grow something, you have to place it on the ground, just like you saw me place the potato in the area there. We will buy some more potatoes because they are nice and cheap. And there we go. So I can actually place this potato anywhere. I mean, I'm right there. The thing of it is anybody can come by because I'm not in a protected area. I am not in any part of this area here. Anybody can come on by and basically loot this potato, or rather dig it up. And you spend 10 labor to dig up the target. They can also water it. When it's done growing, anybody can come along and steal my potato. You can plant stuff anywhere. It's like there's a middle of the road here. This is actually blocked off, but like any of this green area, so I can place it here. You'll actually get quite a few people who try to be pretty stealthy. So for example, you can see this is pretty blocked off. I can pop a little potato in there. Nobody would really be the wiser unless they mouse over it and they see the gear. The same can be done for trees, and that is actually something that's a very big deal with the game. Is you will get all sorts of people who will try to sneak little forests up on the mountaintops. For example, you can kind of see here that there's quite a bit of zone regions in between each of the areas. You can actually see a lot of people will try to get up on like a cliff here or a cliff there, or like here's the Falcorth Plains. You have quite a bit of kind of mountainous range. You get people who try to sneak little farms, stuff like that, and they try to do it everywhere. It's not just these safe areas. You're going to get a lot of people in the early days who are going to try to travel down to Hasla and get up on some mountaintop over here that they think nobody knows about, and they're going to plant a secret yew tree forest and go nuts with that. So and you can we've even seen people who will actually come over to the other side. Now, there is a crime system. That is kind of the downside to it. As you do this, you can't see it because but if somebody was to come along and steal my potato here, they would leave little red footprints, which you can then report for stealing. Same thing if somebody comes along and uproots the potato, I could report the crime and say, hey, they uprooted my potato or whatever. So it isn't necessarily just you can just make a haul with other people's stuff. There will actually be somewhat of a disadvantage to you because you can gain up a lot of infamy very quickly. And then if you steal, let's say, 50 trees, each one's giving you 30, that's 150 crime points. Well, anything after 50 crime points, next time you die in PvP, you go to jail. Well, you could be up here in Yinster, and you're just trying to level, you die because you had the wanted debuff on you, and you could very well go to jail down here in Solus, and now you have kind of like a timeout. So it is pretty disruptive to get crime and crime points, so you do kind of want to plan out for that. You could also have an alt to rip people off in safe areas. There's of course a lot of ideas that you could of course go from there. Now back to the actual building and whatnot. Now each scarecrow has, when you place it, it costs money. So you can see this in the bottom right hand corner. It says pay taxes of 1 gold to place a house. Your weekly tax will be calculated based on the amount. Tax rates increase based on the number of buildings you own per server. Cannot be placed on severe slopes or obstacles. Now that's per server for all your characters. So if I were to place this scarecrow, which I can't, because there's just not enough room right now, I would actually go ahead and pay an increasing tax amount because my other character already owns a house, it already owns a large scarecrow, and it owns an aqua farm, which we will get to. Houses, once you place a house, it is protected for a week. You pay the 1 gold. You pay the 1 gold in this case, taxes, right off the bat. You're gonna have to pay that upfront money, and it's protected for 1 week's time, real time. At that stage, it is then put into. You then receive a mail in game saying, "Hey, you need to pay next week's taxes. If you don't, your stuff will be destroyed." So you can pay up at most 2 weeks worth of time in taxes. You can see that if you see this little, it shows the information about the construction. You can actually see the information on other people's property. So for example, you have territory tax is 0. It's protected until 1038 on 5/28/2014. So that's when this is protected to. So this one has about 10 days time till this will actually go ahead and blow up and you can collect it. And you'll actually see there's quite a few places around you'll find where people have started to abandon their scarecrows. They may have one like this where there's nothing on it. And you can see here, this one's going to be destroyed here on 5/24. This one actually appears to be public. Nope. So you can actually kind of see here where you'll have different times and different areas where things are going to be destroyed. So you can definitely kind of see how that system goes. And it's very easy, you can see, to get the scarecrow. But again, it's going to cost 1 gold, and that price goes up each time you get it. We found out with around 3 buildings, it's around 190% of the taxes. So this would go to 1 gold 90 silver or so, or 1 gold 80 silver. With 4 properties, so if I were to actually place this, it goes up to 356%, which means this would cost 3 gold 56 silver to place down on the ground right now, currently on my account, which I clearly don't have on this character. So it isn't something where you're going to see a lot of people making a lot of alts on the same account, dropping a lot of land. It's just, you just can't maintain it. It also increases the prices of all your existing properties. So let's say I had 4 small scarecrows. The first one I place would be 1 gold. Second one I'd place would be 1 gold. Third one I'd place would be 1 gold 80 silver. The next one I would place would be 3 gold 56 silver. When taxes come around, I would then have to pay 3 gold 56 silver for all 4 of those properties. Also, the taxes must be paid on the character that actually owns the land. It isn't something where you can set up an alt, drop it down, set the property to guild. We'll come to that and go from there. So, bit of a management system. So let's go ahead and actually show you a character with a little bit more land. Now, territory in game has a number. There's a number of territories within the game, some of which are hidden on the map. They're not displayed prominently everywhere. And we'll explain them more here once this actually logs in. So this is my actually house, and lived next to Zephx. It's my little tree farm as well as my actual house. Is what I was talking about is you can see there is actually plots on the land that are actually zoned for any type of house or field. There are also specialty plots that are zoned for only medium and large size houses and manors. That means in these types of lands you can pretty much place anything down. So if you wanted to place a mansion down, which there is actually one at that location, which we will fly on by there, you could place it down if there's room. You can place a thatched farmhouse. You can place whatever you want. That's entirely up to you. Whereas here you can only place large chunks of land. And you can see here in Lusong Harbor there's a lot on the coast. You can also see I have an aqua farm, or my scarecrow farm, or my cottage. In other zones which you can't see, there's like all around the city of towers. As we come more into Solus, there's big ones around here around the Halo Hollow. This is all land, territory, so again, more coastal. Quite a bit of land. Same here in Yenister, there's quite a bit spread around through here. In addition to these ones that are listed, there are a number of other areas that actually have housing available to them where you can place a house, but aren't clearly marked. So for example, if we look into Falkworth Plains, there's nothing here that's marking that there's a house, but there's a whole ridge of plots of land right there. Kind of the same thing goes for Arkham-Iris, where there's whole ridges, along this whole road, there's a large number of plots of land. Now, on that note, you might ask, well, what's the difference between the zones? And the difference between the zones is the climate. And in this case, you can actually see in the bottom right-hand corner here, it says temperate zone. That means items that grow in temperate zones will grow quicker. Whereas, for example, in Arkham-Iris, you can see this where it says arid, and it is actually things that grow in an arid climate. And there's other types of climates. Mahadevi is tropical. This can actually be a really big advantage. For day one, for example, one of the most common trade runs on the eastern side is bananas, and bananas grow the fastest here in Mahadevi because it is tropical. So you're going to see a lot of people try to put land down early on, trying to capitalize on that banana market. With that in mind, we actually go ahead and we do have, there is also other climates. For example, Carcass Ridgelands actually has subarctic as well. And in addition to which, up on Honoria, in the northern continent, one of the main advantages to living up there is you will actually see dual climates, where this is actually both temperate and subarctic can be exploited here, as well as, you know, temperate and tropical, and many others. The land itself here, I don't actually have a key on me. We'll cover that, what I just did there, in a minute. Grab this. Apple trees, lemon trees, and maples, nobody can take these items whenever they're ready. So for example, this bushy bay tree is available for picking, but anybody can't come along and just take it, only I can, and I can just kind of come over here and gather up. This actually shows an example of the sorry, a little beep there. This actually shows a pretty good example of a dual item where you can see I had the option to chop it down or to gather from it, and I gathered from it, giving myself bay leaves. Whereas something like this, I can only pick it up or get rid of it. You will also notice that my house is at a bit of an angle, even though that this is over here. For example, you can see that this is it is diagonal within the plot. That means you can rotate the items when you place it. So for example, these ones I can't really do because there's really nothing to it. But when you actually place items, you can actually rotate them and change it around. And to kind of show you the around, I'll kind of come into my house here. Kind of show you, so I have a couple of chests, little bear rug of course, and a bed. Bed can be used to get items back. So what I'm trying to do here is trying to get my house controls. Oh, I had it. There we go. So you can see here a little bit more in depth. You can see I have 6 decor out of 45 items down. The amount due on my property is 543. This house is 3 gold base, so that's where those numbers come from. You can see that I'm paid in full. It's protected until 23/32 of 5/27/2014. You'll also see that I have usage permissions. So I private, guild, family, open to public, and prevent removal of decor. So I'm going to get rid of that for a minute and confirm. You can also sell the house. These building appraisals, I believe, are actually on the gold or on the cash shop auction house, and you can actually tell, like 1 gold, I only need 1, 10, I only need 1, but now once you start getting into higher, so now adding in 100, it's only 1, but then let's add another 0, so it's actually about 1% of the value is the number of building appraisals that you need. So you can sell, you can let anybody buy it, you can sell it to a specific person, you have all sorts of options. I don't know what the boost is for, to be honest with you, but you can prevent You can set things up to public, family, guild, private. The bed, only the owner will actually get the benefit of the extra labor from the bed. It takes 10 minutes to actually get. Trying to can light up the the place. Boy. Okay, so now I can grab my rug. So when you place an item, you actually see you can get it. So let's say this isn't bad. You know, this wouldn't be a bad look to put it there. But you can see now I got the mouse controls. So scroll the wheel to rotate the target, Alt to hold down to slightly scroll, Shift to rotate it 15 at a time, and Control to adjust the view. So I wanted to put it 15 at a time. Now your cursor initially is going to be locked, but if you just right click, you can see it frees it back up so you can put it wherever you want. So I can put my bear rug right where it was. Perfect. So that's kind of how the house controls and placing items. That's how I got my house a little set up like this. You'll actually see I do have a Regal alchemy table. That was something I bought in the Mirage aisle, which we will be going to. This actually gives me access to the higher end, the actual higher end items. So for example, you can see this requires a Regal alchemy table, which means that without actually having items in the, you are not actually having the actual table, you kind of have to go to a public one, which is located only in Falkworth. You can also see you get spacious storage chests, which give you 50 additional slots. So in this case, I have my farming and cooking stuff in this one, as well as my logs. And this one I have more of my alchemy components and the rare materials I've gained. So you can of course place decorations, interact with house, kind of go from there. I have mine set to family because if we come under social, I actually have my two characters in my family. So that means I can use this. I can use this as basically a bridge on my account to kind of allow anybody within my on my account to basically a chance to interact with any of the items here as being part of my family. But you could also allow other people. So for example, like, let's say, my good buddy ZFX here, he, we were in a family at one point. He could easily set this to family himself, and then I could have access to his land, and if he's not here, I could pick all this thistle and harvest the avocado for him and then send it to him, and possibly place my own stuff. I mean, obviously you want to work out an arrangement with your family. You could also have family objectives, kind of working towards things for the family and kind of going more like that. So it's kind of like a little mini group, a social group of friends, and you of course could remove all that and access it. A family does have access to, for example, the farmer's workstation. The farmer's workstation is actually an item that's a little bit unique compared to other pieces of furniture, in the sense that it actually consumes the small scarecrow garden that you get on one of your characters when you place it. So you can see, for example, here, in order to make this, I actually had to consume my small scarecrow, get 30 lumber, and make a viscous glossy oil. And what that gives you access to is the bundles, which bundles are used primarily for things like making basically 10 at a time. So for example, you have, instead of planting 10 clover seeds, you can just do it all at once in the bundle, and I happen to have some rice bundles here. You can see that they're much larger, much larger, to the point where I can't really place one right now. And what they do is they will give you, they're the only way to get access to worms for fishing. So if you are a fisherman, you will end up going ahead and growing quite a few bundles, even if you don't really want them, just to go ahead and get access to those worms, or have other people get them, make them for you, and then you can actually get that. So that's one of the things you actually want to do here, and get access to. And again, I see a couple of new people joined in here. If you guys have any questions about housing or farming or anything like that, go ahead and feel free to throw them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them as it's convenient to do so. Otherwise, you can just enjoy the tour. So that's kind of the major thing for farming and gathering land. Now, something to note is that you're going to feel the urge, you're going to feel the need, like, man, I want a lot of land. I mean, I got to have a lot of land. The problem with a lot of land is that you only get so much labor a day. So, for example, you see I gain 5 labor every 5 minutes regardless of connection status. That's actually double that currently. That's because we're patron. So that means we get around 120 labor an hour. And honestly, it's very easy to set up your farms and your houses and your land with more items than you have labor. Because just because, let's say, I could gather all these trees doesn't mean I would necessarily have the labor to process them. Or I wouldn't have the labor to do after I process them to even then craft after they've been processed. So in this case, you can grow different things. For example, these are the maple trees. And maple trees are very good because they're trees that are very labor efficient. They take 24 hours to grow. So you can see I planted these about 6 hours ago. And I will get 9 to 10 logs from them for about 10 labor. Pretty darn efficient. But they take 24 hours to grow, so I'm going to get around 150 logs from this whole little setup that I have right now, maybe about once a day at the cost of around 150 labor. It's not bad. That also lets me focus my labor in other areas, such as I was working on alchemy, which I actually hit 10,000 in, as well as working on gathering. So that allowed me to kind of, now that I'm done with that, I could easily grow more labor-intensive trees to collect more logs if I was interested, or plant down more, for example, those bundles for cooking, which is part of the reason why I have all these seeds saved up here, is just so that way I can quickly make those and get those done. I also have been working on cooking, which is part of the reason why I've been working on the apples and lemons and aloe, is so I can do that. So that's kind of the general gist of houses. There's many different configurations. One of the ones that there's a really good thread on our forums, and let me go ahead and pull this up. It was started by Cami. There we go. I even got it bookmarked. And it's one of those things where you can actually, it really breaks down the different types of farming houses, the aqua farm houses, the different stuff. It really breaks down the different sizes of the farms and kind of the more efficient way to place things, as well as some preset configurations. These are certainly available elsewhere on the web, so if you do your research just like we did, you would also have access to it. You can see there's a lot of different setups that you have, but again, it all comes back to managing your setup versus your labor. You know, I could fit 48 turkeys on this large farm here, but 48 turkeys, not only do I have to feed all 48, so there's 48, but then I also have to harvest them, which is another 15 per turkey. Well, 16 times 48 is 768 labor, but I can do that every 4 hours. But remember, we only generate 120 labor an hour. So what that actually means is that at 120 an hour, every 4 hours, I can only generate 480 labor in that 4 hour time frame, but to do 48 turkeys, it's 768. So it's something where it's very important to go ahead and actually, you know, keep in mind that you actually want to create a setup that is actually good for your labor. So you might want to only grow like half that, 20 turkeys or 24 turkeys, and then put the rest into trees, because trees actually sell very well on the auction house. And as you saw, I can choose very labor efficient methods, or very labor efficient selections for those. And again, just like at the other one, like I said before, all these housing provinces usually have some sort of setup, and again, we have the warehouse manager, livestock, sapling seed, crafting, carpentry, and we're just coming over here to livestock merchant. You can actually see, so we just talked about turkeys every 4 hours, but here you can say it's 5 hours 43 minutes. That's because if you look there in the middle, it says climate temperate, and that's actually the zone we're in. Planting stuff in the climate that you are designed for is actually very, very good. It'll actually reduce the amount of time. So we come back to that banana thing, where one of the early things that everyone's going to want is bananas. Hey, what's up there, psychophobic? A lot of people are going to want bananas, so you're going to get people who are going to place their small farms in Mahadevi to get that banana farm going on and kind of capitalize on that early market. Now, there's certainly different sizes of animal. For example, the Blizzard Cub takes up quite a bit of space, as does the Yata and the Buffalo Calf, whereas the turkey chicks and the goats and the lambs, they all take much smaller space, and then you get into the really tiny ones, such as the ducklings and the chicks, and as well as the goslings for the geese. So you're going to have different sizes. That same rules also apply, for example, to trees, where you can see the ash grows well in a temperate. Hornbeam is a climate all, so it grows 8 hours regardless of where in a climate of 8 hours. Same thing with the cork, is now temperate, so that's a 4-hour one. In these ones, you can notice that this cork sapling is 4 silver, grows in 4 hours, climate temperate, versus say and we'll go ahead and we'll buy that one just so we can show you. And we'll get the U, which is also the same, again, climate all, about 4 hours. What's the difference between them? Well, all trees are not created equal. And so you can see there's a number of other trees, so pine, bamboo. There's also coral for here. We'll buy some of that. Go from there. This character's a little cash poor. Oh, nuts. I really hate that, by the way. Just putting that out there, the whole mailbox flying away thing. It's like, really? Nice points for style, but it's still kind of like, eh. Well, thank you, Audaciter. Funded my other character there. Now, the difference here in the trees, and you also occasionally run into trees that are out in the public that are just naturally part of the land. So, for example, you can see there is a camphor sapling that's out there, which will mature in 1 day, 18 hours. There's usually other trees around here. Very big when the servers just come up from a reboot. You will see quite a bit of random trees out there. But, so here's your yew tree. And you can see it's your standard size tree. You plant it down. Not too big of a deal. But then you can see this cork. Now this cork is a monster. I mean, it's massive. This also will grow in forever, and you can kind of see it kind of comes out from a distance, or a distance here, as is that, this is going to be much bigger, but you can see they both grow in 4 hours. Now, the difference is, again, comes back to labor, where this tree will give you 2 to 4 and takes up a smaller space, whereas this is going to give you 5 to 6, but takes up much more space. So, typically speaking, you typically don't grow the larger trees unless you just have more labor than sense, which almost never happens. But you will go ahead, and most people, you're going to see a lot of yews. That's going to be the common tree that you're going to see pretty much everywhere. And so the next part, we'll go ahead and actually show you the aqua farm, which I'll actually place and kind of show you some stuff. And as we go, we'll kind of take a little bit of a glide along the way. Now, what's going on with 41? Pretty nice area up here, up in Villanelle. It's got a little bit of like a Japanese feel to it with the cherry trees everywhere. It's going to get really tough to play other games being so used to gliding. I'm going to tell you that right now. I jumped in the Yuzo the other day, and it's pretty insane. Now, while we're on the topic of planting stuff and kind of showing off different configurations and different things like that, a really great way to get a lot of that information is to actually steal from others. If you see a really good configuration where it's like, wow, how did they get this down? You can actually put stuff, you can actually mouse over their configuration of items, and by opening up the coral, and you can actually see how they placed it. So, for example, this is the little impact town, Guild Impact in Alpha. They have all their little houses and scarecrows in here, as well as the mansion that they built. I can only imagine the effort that they did to get that. But you can see they have a little farming town here set up. They also even have the refining stations. They're working on those. So you can see there's quite a bit of setups you can actually set up and kind of build up and take care of and kind of go from there. So come on over here. This is just a pit stop. Now this is where one of the larger housing districts that you see on the map, for example, we talked about that, were medium and large size houses and manors. You can see that these are the two floor buildings, the 3-floor buildings, and the like. Anybody can, as you can see, get on here, but just because I'm on here doesn't mean I can play his piano, doesn't mean I can open up his house. I can, however, get up on top. You can also see, for example, that's a townhouse, that's a swept roof chalet, a manor, etc. You can see some people leave their houses unlocked, and you can see there's all sorts of stuff that this person has. Quite a bit all around. So a lot of customization that you can really do. As you can see, there's quite a bit of items. Here the Raya, I'm not sure what guild they're with, but quite an impressive setup here. You can also see that you can place your own mailbox, or owl mailbox, outside your own house, as well as their custom logo. That's something that they recently added to the game, was the custom logos. Homeland Security logo over there for Xylox. And you can see there's plenty of room to still farm outside the houses. So getting one of these larger houses is not necessarily a complete loss. It's actually something where you can actually see you can fit quite a bit of items here for these for growing and farming and the like. And this, a lot of these territories are 24 by 24, which means you got about 8 by 8 by 8 or thereabouts. So minus of course the porch and the fireplace on the backside, and there you go. So quite a bit to there with these larger houses. And of course you have the more standard, as well you can see it goes all the way up to the top of the hill. Now here's where we can actually get a pretty good idea on how to do things. So for example, earlier you saw my house was placed at an angle. Let me go ahead and grab a seed here, and again we'll just fire a cheap old potato eye. And this is what I was talking about before, about actually kind of seeing the setup that people have with their houses and kind of how they do it. You can see that, you know, on this house they have enough room for 1 in the front, 3 on the side, 1 in the back, 4 on the back, and then 4 more or 5 more on the side, and again more on the front. So quite a bit of room there for trees and whatnot for this type of a setup. Whereas comparatively, we'll go look for an angled house. Yeah, you can see that they have quite a bit of room here to set up a small amount of land. But if they wanted to set up something extra to it, they really couldn't. Like, they couldn't really plant something super huge. Like, remember we looked at that cork tree, or like a bear, for bear growth and the like. You can't really do that. Whereas if you come to this house, you can see there is actually quite a bit of extra room here to really place a much larger item in place for those corners, as well as still get all that room on the sides. I kind of go from there. So depending on what you're really going for and what you want to place on your farm, depends on how you want to set your house up and what angle you want to set it up with. This, of course, is the thatched farmhouse over here. And you can see quite a bit of room. You know, she's got quite a bit of bundles down here. This is, I believe, Lenore's house. Let's see here. Yeah, Lenore. So you can see quite a bit of room here for her farm, including a little beehive and the like. And she even has so many little bundles over here. She even has another little farm, as well as here, as well as trying to grow a bunch of livestock and the like. So, and she also has all sorts of stuff in her house. These little plushy plushies. I have no idea how to get those. I'm sure somebody out there will love them and do all that. They also have fish that they've caught, so for example the length of the fish and when they caught it and the like. Little bit of a teapots and the like. There's a lot of customization here you can see with the housing and the like. Now this all can be useful to get ideas on how to set up how you want to set up your farm. There is, of course, good setup. So, for example, you can kind of see how this person just they've wasted a lot of space. I could put one there. I couldn't put anything in the middle. I could certainly put 4 on the outside, but I couldn't really do much else with it. Whereas this person, kind of the same scenario where they kind of wasted it, and you really can't. You can put one there, but you really can't put it much else in terms of where else you want to put it. Whereas a person who properly exploited it, and they must have picked it up because there was a good example here earlier. Yep. So in this example, I could put 4 in the middle and then 4 on the outside. So it would actually work much better in how you do it. Now, there's also a difference in which houses you get. And this was something we discovered, is you can see the Eastern style houses actually have this kind of like ridge to them right here, this outer ridge. This doesn't really that does not really gain you much. You really can't put much on it, and you can see it actually does take up some of your growing space. So you do get more limited space with these Eastern style houses. It's just kind of like an unfortunate part of it. There are, as you can see, a shining vein to harvest from and go from there. This is also how you place boats. When you buy a boat, you can see you'll get these docks, and then you kind of have to build onto it. So you can see they've already added the lumber, and then you actually add the iron pack and the fabric pack and then the labor. Same thing for the houses. When you place the house, you'll get a kind of construction as we saw earlier. You add the bundles in the correct order, and it goes from there. And after much talking it up, you'll actually get to see the aqua farm. Now, aqua farms are zoned on the map, so you can see this zone is zoned for aqua farms. And as you can see, there's all sorts of stuff right here, right underneath the water. So I kind of prepped this up. I didn't have anything here on my aqua farm, but you can see there's a lot of variety of setups that people have grown, and each one of those little lights is an aqua farm. And it goes all the way into the other zone over there that is actually another aqua farm setup, so most of this bay is entirely aqua farms. Now you can see my breath is running out. You can use any aqua farm to come here and use a little gear icon and get a little bubble of breath and refill your thing. And these basically just grow coral. They also grow other types of materials such as pearls, of course some cooking materials, as well as others. And you can see placing items is just very easy. You want to put them in as much order as you can. I'm pretty used to this setup, so I can do it somewhat fast, but usually want to kind of try to line things up as much as possible. There are some pretty tight fits, like for example, I do have 20 trees on my farm. That is possible, but it's a very exacting and perfecting fit. You really do have to there are some guides out there on how to do it and how to get all that, and you know, you really got to watch it. This one, not so much. It's pretty hard to mess up. Basically, I'm going to put 8 by 8 with 1 on the sides and then 3 in the middle for 21 total. So, get that. So there's this. So that's one side. Now you do the other. You create almost like a symmetry in this case. The idea is to maximize the most amount as you can for your land. And I'm sure there's even more optimal configurations than this for this. This is the one I found. This is the one that I use. I like it for the coral. The aqua farms themselves are just as expensive as large scarecrows. The price per week on most properties, as you're going to see, is pretty much static, entirely based on the amount of land it takes up. So a 24 by 24 plot of land is always 10 gold base. 16 by 16 is always 3 gold base. and a 8x8 is always 1 gold base. So now that I have that down, I then go ahead and place the last bit here, so I can put 1 there and 2 here. And there we go. So that is an aqua farm. Now there are a variety of devices you can get to help breathe underwater. For example, here on the clipper boat, you can go ahead and you can summon, as well as the merchant boat, and it will summon my merchant crater. That's gonna be pretty awesome. But I'm also an incredibly huge nerd, so Decepticon logo on the boat. Name the boat Soundwave. I'm having a bit of fun with it. You can of course use the Crest Brainstorm to put whatever you want. We're still working out our guild logo here. But you can actually see on these boats, you actually get the little charged underwater breathing apparatus. They actually have to charge up before you can really use them too much. As you can see, it won't actually give me anything, but that will actually go on my back. The merchant boat actually has some cannons. But these little apparatuses actually will go ahead and extend your breathing underwater and how much time you have to breathe. There are also some items that you can get as well that will add time, such as a diving helmet and otherwise. Yeah, right? So that's kind of the some of the ways you can get some stuff for underwater. There's also, of course, the harpoon clipper. Is the same setup. I know HM, that's part of the reason why we're talking about switching it, so you don't, like, who's HM? No, really it's MH. But here we have the exact same thing where you have the charged underwater breathing apparatus. Obviously right now you still can't grab it, so you can't put it on, but that's how you would do that and get all that. So that's kind of how all that works with the aqua farm. You know, you really don't need it for doing an aqua farm. These things will kind of grow on their own and they will be taken care of. So, yep, made it. All right, now where do you get all these wonderful things? And the answer to that question is the Mirage Isle, which I happen to have a character placed right in the Mirage Isle, ready to go. This is really there's really no other way to say it. It's pretty much a showroom. It actually is a room that is designed entirely just to kind of show you stuff. Everything you see can pretty much be bought, right down to the decorations in many cases, and you'll see that here in a little bit. Coming back to the crime, as you can saw from that little tooltip, accumulating 3,000 crime will actually go ahead and put you as a pirate, hostile to everyone, and that's kind of where we come back. You know, obviously building up a ton of crime from stealing crops. If you get over 3,000, you actually become a pirate, which can be, you know, kind of silly if you think about it, but in the sense that, you know, you kind of silly from, you get 3,000 infamy, you become a pirate entirely from stealing other people's crops. So, still happens. So this is Mirage Isle. Of course it is, they turned the bloom up to like overdrive. Right off the bat, this is where you can actually buy the horses. You can see both my characters have these horses. Here you actually have the Lord coin tokens. So for example, you know, to buy this stuff you need 2 Lord coins. These come from the northern continent, and you have the same thing for like the other pieces. You also have the costume slots, which take 10 Lord coins to actually buy these. These are the heroic ones. You can also get the craftable ones that are over here, that are actually more reasonable for Nui tiers, 50 Nui tiers, and they actually have to be crafted up. And what costumes do is basically you equip them in the costume slot up here at the top as a wardrobe item, and it'll actually give you like a bonus to your stats, such as you saw there was like some evasion rating and stuff like that on the character. There are also gliders, and this is actually very helpful when you first get into the game. You know, your first 2 gold you may want to actually spend may actually be here. You will get this design as a quest, but you can come over here and buy this one, which for 25 silver you get the improved glider, which gives you access to nitro. For an extra 50 silver, nitro gives you that boost that you see me doing where I go up in that air. You get the enhanced glider design for another 50 silver. That is actually used for, it'll give you a little bit of an attack, and then you get the final one that also boosts it. And you can actually see, if we come under machining, oops, that these gliders are actually equivalent to like the ones that you get. So for example, high, moderate. Same thing as the one that I have equipped that I got at level 25, high, moderate. So you get different ones at different levels. They also have different minimum levels. So for example, that's 15. The improved glider is 10. But you can see this is flight speed moderate. The basic one that you get is low. So getting it upgraded. There are of course also the special gliders. These are more end game gliders. Very difficult to get. I actually haven't seen one yet. And if they do exist, they're very limited to the number of people who get them. This one is the more common one that you will see because it is very high speed. It's the fastest glider around. So, and as we said, everything is kind of the showcase. So here's more of the eastern side of things. Here's where you could buy a donkey if you don't want to do the quest. From the Blue Salt Brotherhood, which you should, but you could buy your donkeys. You could also go ahead and come in here and you can see like I have the Black Forest, which is super shiny. You have the Muddy White Horse, the Brown Staff, etc. And you can see that these are basically 30 Nui tiers. This is usually my first 30 Nui tier purchase, because if you actually come over here, that horse that I was riding can actually become the sealed Black Arrow. But you have to level up the horse to level 50, and you have to present a certificate that's worth 500 gold to actually get it, and it is significantly faster. As you can see, this is the actual thatched farmhouse, and I'm actually going to pick one of these up here. These are actually much bigger, and you can see the construction material for them: 10 stone packs, so that's 100 stone bricks times 10. Each stone brick takes 3, so if you really want to break that out, you know, that's 100, or that's times 10, or 10 times 100 times 3 is a shitload of stone packs, so like 3,000 something stone that you have to mine. Same thing with the iron, quite a bit there. Stone packs, I might have forgotten a 0 in there, but you get the idea. And again, you kind of see pay taxes of 6 gold, so that's really not that bad. It's only 6 gold. It's actually less for the 24 by 24 space, so that's actually really good for taxes, especially because the amount of area that you gain is about the same as what I currently have in my other setup, which is a large scarecrow 16 by 16 and a house 16 by 16. You know, it's the same thing, just here in what Dodgen lovingly refers to as a mud hut. As you can see, as I run around, you can actually see most of these things kind of pop up. So you can see you can buy the fences for the 10 silver here, and I could just place these on my yards. That way I can actually go white picket fence. You can also craft most of that stuff as well. You can see the same thing for like the eastern houses. If you come over here, a basic 16 by 16 house is only 15 Gilda stars, and it only takes 1, 1, and 1. So that's really not that bad. Whereas coming over here to that 2-room house, it jumps up to 100 Gilda stars, which is now 10, 5, and 5. Again, that's quite a bit of stone that you're going to need to actually complete that building. Most of the items that you will actually find in these houses in this place are actually for sale. So for example, you can see Regal cooking tools. If I wanted to buy it, I have to pay 20 Gildas. That's how I got the Regal station before. I can come over here and buy like the medicine cabinets, bookshelves, everything. See, everything kind of like pops up here. Here's an empty stand-up frame. This is where you could actually put your guild logo on, is right there. That's what you saw there before. You get pictures of Asian chicks, I mean, if that's your thing. There are a whole slew of items, of course, out here. Oh boy. As you can see, sometimes when you run the houses. Of course, you buy that, but you can get like little folding areas. You can see this is where I bought the bear rug. There's a whole different style of items. This is also where you can buy those chests. You can see these large chests actually cost me 30 gildas just to outright buy. You can, of course, craft all this stuff and throw it up on the auction house. You can also buy it with gildas and throw it up on the auction house. You can convert your gildas to cash. Same thing with like beds. And beds, as you can see, give different bonuses. So, for example, provides the owner will recover 70 labor. You can do that once per day, once every 20 hours or so. But everything is for sale. Everything, top to bottom, 100% for sale in the Mirage aisle. Of course, you have this is the more regular stuff. You also run into a lot of macroing people who are currently in the alpha. You also have the castle items. So, for example, here you actually have like the Gay House, as well as the Guild of Stars. You can kind of see like just a defense tower costs 3 stone packs. So going up to the north and building a castle, you can see very stone intensive because you pretty much have to pay for each section of wall as well as each section of everything. So, and that's really where, and we'll cover this more next week. We're kind of at the top of the hour here. I'm going to extend it a little bit longer here so we can go to the other side of this, but you can actually see, you can actually get like the breezy bungalow design. This is something newer. This is actually 500 Nui tiers. That's quite a bit. It gives you a 24 by 24 marine house, which is really huge for aqua farms. There's also the Adventurer's Clipper over here, where you actually have the, this is the cannon one. You have the Eastern Galleon, as well as the fishing boat. And fishing boat, 100 gildas alone. So, rather than go all the way over there, we will... Now, thing to note about summoning boats is if I were to summon my boat, it basically summons from right to left. And I don't know what type of boat that is, but it's not there. And it won't let me summon my boat, of course. But the actual summoning of boats is from right to left and kind of go there. Now on the other side of the island you actually have more of the Western design style buildings. These are certainly more my favorite. You can also again see kind of over here on the docks on the left you have more of that. As well as here's the ocean items. Even though these people are hostile, it is a no war zone. You can see the aqua farm. Here are the submarines and what they look like. You can actually see the submarines are a 2-seater item. Looks like here. It could only be a 1-seater. I'm certainly not sure. But you can't buy the red one here. See, you can't even click on it. The white one is actually from vocation points. You have to spend vocation points to get the recipe. The red one is from the honor vendor, and the blue one you can see is here from the gildas, which is the things. Is 500 gildas. Submarines are a whole other layer of the game. I mean, they are incredibly, they're like cars for the ocean. Very, very, very item intensive and skill intensive. Now, some of the other types of housing you'll actually see, these are actually refining stations. So let's say you decide to set up a island up in the north, or an island or you decide to set up on an island somewhere. You actually won't have those housing refining areas. So if you, as a guild, wanted to set things up, you could go ahead and you could grab, like, see a private anvil, private masonry table, private leatherworking table, and you see they're very cheap. And they only take 1 gold to place a house. It's 8 by 8. You can put chests on here, so it is actually pretty nice, and you'll get like a little refining station here, which actually can be very helpful out in the world if you're nowhere near any other refining stations. Another thing to note, and this is very, very important for the West, if you're going for Western buildings, is you see these houses actually have slightly different designs. So for example, you can see that this house actually has a little bit of stone and wood. This house has a little bit of plaster and wood, stone and wood, a bunch of wood. Well, that's because their materials that take to make them are different. So you can see stone, lumber, lumber. Whereas this, it's actually stone, stone, lumber. So depending on the type of house that you buy will depend on what materials it takes to actually make here on the West. And you can see there's a lot more variety of houses. So for example, here is some of those 3-story houses. So this one is 15, 5, and 5. You see the circus in the background there of macros. 15, 5, and 5. So these seem to be a little bit more standard. And of course, you know, this one's going to be far more lumber intensive. So 45 lumber packs for this one, 25, 15, 45. Same thing over here, but now it's 50, 15, and 20. So different style houses, different types of things. This is by far, I think, my favorite setup right here is this style of design, where it's kind of has like that third floor kind of open. But you can see at 500 guildas, it's going to be quite the time investment. You'll actually notice that the price of the rent is actually quite substantial as well. 30 gold to place the house, as well as weekly rent. And remember that that doubles based on how much territory you have as a whole. So if that goes up to 180%, you know, now you're next thing you know, you're paying 50 gold a week. Or here, you know, let's say it's 356%. Oh my God, 20 gold at that much? That's crazy. You do get 28 by 28 meters, which means you will get a small buffer around the house. For each of the houses, this is probably my other favorite setup, is this type of a house. 300 Gilda stars, but 30 stone packs, 10 lumber, 10 iron, quite a bit. Of course, you have the super mansion as well. These are a tremendous 1,000 Gildas. And remember, one person has to buy that and one person has to have it. This isn't like a guild level thing, so one person is going to have to maintain these types of items and the like. So, and again, you can kind of see the different configurations, as well as the difference in the western castles. So you can see like it's same stuff, just a slightly different design. You also have the siege weapons, such as the scaling ladder, costing 30 gold. 30 gold for a trebuchet, as well as a ram for the rampart stairs for them on the inside. As just like up on the eastern side, you can go ahead and you can come up here and you can certainly go through here and look at anything you want and buy anything that you want. So Sovereign's lavish gilt bed is 10 Gilda stars, but it gives you a whopping 80 back. 80 lumber or 80 labor every day. It's not a bad investment for Gildas. You can see here where people get these things. So the elephant head trophy, that person probably bought it for 2 gold or 2 Gildas here. There's all sorts of bookshelves that you can have and place down, and a variety of levels of different things and little dividers and the like. So that's kind of the housing and farming in a nutshell. If you guys have any questions, again, feel free to throw them in there, and I can certainly go look at stuff or see whatever. There are, of course, you can also see other things in here. I know, please ignore the circus in the background, but you do have the wheeled mortar. There. You also have a variety of designs that you can buy. For example, the 1,000 Gilda stars for the car. The wheeled mortar is 50 Nui tiers. The tractor is 10 Gilda stars. There are tractors, as you can actually see over here. People are on these farm wagons, and you can kind of hop on here to give them a bit of a try. You can see the different abilities. You know, this is where tractors would really help out for farming purposes. You can actually draw water from a nearby well or mineral spring. Alternatively, you can now water plants, which will actually go ahead and water all the farms around. You also have material trade pack storage in the back here. You can also put cows and the like in the back there. You also have first round new morning, increased move speed for 5 minutes. So you get a bit of some interesting stuff here that you can buy and kind of expand upon and kind of go from there and kind of go how that goes. You can also, of course, buy a heifer to ride around on and kind of doing the like. So 5 Gildas, I will get a storming into battle on the back of a bovine. So fortunately, don't think you can. Oh, you can buy the Archeum tree sapling, but you do have to have requires a continuous supply of Aurea mineral water to survive. So that is kind of the game here. Kind of the basics to housing and the like. Now, placing a house is always going to be somewhat difficult. And on our server, the alpha server, it is actually pretty full. I'm surprised they haven't cut things off yet, and you can see here there's a number of other things that you can buy. Just again, more stuff that you can buy. I'm honestly pretty surprised they haven't cut off the beta yet, but they haven't. Kind of hope I don't run into PvP. I'm a little bit of a weird build. I'm not really PvP spec right now, and kind of more in grind mode to level up my archery and oromancy. But we will leave. So most of the land is pretty well taken, but it's not as bad as it seems. It'll be a lot. It won't be as bad when the game servers come out, because there's going to be multiple servers, and of course, if you pile onto like the most populated server possible, you might not have the most readily available land and the most friendliest of territories right off the bat. That's kind of the risk you take on playing a really super high pop server. But and generally speaking, there tends to be a pretty decent amount of land until people kind of get word of it, and then they start placing everything. Like for example, not 2-3 days ago, this was all completely 100% empty. There wasn't a soul out here, not a soul in the world. And I actually helped Silver and ACOS actually place their farms right here and actually get out here, and you can actually see there's still room. So for example, if I wanted to, I could place my farm right next to them. And so when you place it, you can see you can just turn the house just like before. And when you place it, I'm hoping it'll give you a confirmation. Yep, so it does. So you can see that the base tax is 6, but because I own 4 buildings, the taxes that I would have to pay are 21 gold, 36 silver. And heavier taxes are imposed more than 3%. I'm also going to need to have 10 stone brick packs, 5 iron packs, as well as 5 lumber packs to actually place this house. Now I could of course bring down the gold by collapsing my other houses on my account. By the way, this is how the bloodstains work. If you get murdered by somebody, you can actually report what you saw. Say, this guy deserved it. Probably doesn't, but that'll show up on the crime report. But this is how you go ahead, and this is how you can place stuff. Is you can actually go ahead and place your stuff down. And if I wanted to collapse my other stuff and then actually build my farmhouse out here, I could. I could also bring my other stuff. But again, we got to remember what type of territory it is. In this case, it's arid. I'm not really looking for an arid zone, so I really don't want to kind of move out here because of that. You can see that somebody else is trying to build those private anvil, private leather working table, private all these other stuff. You can kind of see this person is building kind of like a little bit of a gated area. This is probably like a group of people. So here's a sawmill station, probably the vehement crew there. You see them there. And remember, because this zone is vulnerable, I could be attacked by the enemy. A guy could go bloodlust and attack me while I'm farming. I could die repeatedly. It could happen over and over and over again. And that's just kind of the nature of the game and kind of planting out here. That's kind of how it goes. So it doesn't seem like there was any real questions, so I'm actually going to go ahead and probably go ahead and stop here. And just again kind of recap, next week or sometime next week, we'll go ahead and we'll probably get more into the crafting side of the game. That'll be on Sunday, same time, 8 p.m. EST. We will likely get into the crafting part of the game and actually kind of look into some of these crafting lines and kind of see what these are all about, as well as the proficiencies and what are these all about, as well as specializations used. A lot of people say like, oh, well, you can have up to 5 specializations at the novice rank and above, and it's kind of like, well, you could, but what does that actually mean, and how does that actually work? So we'll go ahead and we'll kind of cover all that and some of the interconnectivity of some of these crafting and the way that goes. So thanks for coming on out and watching, and that's pretty much it. See ya.